bad is you take the power cord, you plug it in, and you test the voltage from the power cord. You just use a regular voltmeter. And what you want to test for is voltage. I'm going to put the meter at 20 volts. And you take the tip, the power jack tip. You hold your black, your negative on the outside of the tip. And you put the red on the in the hole on the inside of the tip. Be very careful not to touch the red and the black and the tips together, otherwise it'll create a short circuit. Now you can't see it probably on that video. Oh, there you can. Can you guys read what that number is there? This is just a test if I'm coming through clear. What number was that? Yes, 19 volts. Just about 19 volts. So we know the power adapter works. Now just to make sure, you could take the power adapter and kind of bend it around a little bit and make sure that it's making a good connection. Let's see. I'm going to do that right now. Okay, I'm still getting 19 volts, and I'm moving the power adapter around a little bit, jiggling it around, making sure that there's no crimps in the wire. Okay. Even though I jiggle it around, it's still moving around at 19 volts. So we know the tip is good. A lot of times, you know, the tip will break, like right in this area here, and you won't get that 19 volts after you do that, after it's broken. So instead of just taking the whole computer apart and finding out it has a perfectly good power jack, test the power adapter first. Now we know the power adapter works. That leaves us with the power jack. Alright, what I like to do now is take the computer, probably a good idea to take the battery out at this point. And I take like a toothpick. This is another thing I do when the customers here. I take a toothpick and then I start just pushing it in the hole where the power adapter is to see if the tip is bad. That's one way you could test it too. Just to see if the tip is jiggling around inside that hole there. If it's really loose or the power jack's completely non-existent, then you kind of know what you're dealing with. Okay, sorry guys, I'm just adjusting my Ustream for 1 second. Okay, back. Alright, so we know it's a bad power jack. I mean, another way you could test it is, you know, plug in your power adapter. Just plug it into the side and see if the battery light lights up, you know, see if it's actually getting any power to it. See if you could turn it on without the battery in it. This one, I'm pressing the power with no battery, nothing. Okay, enough with the diagnostics. Let's get into how to fix this baby. Okay, with laptops, what I like to do is first take the battery out. Another thing I do before I do anything, if I'm going to put it upside down, I think it's not polite to scratch the heck out of a customer's laptop. So I put this is a piece of foam that you get when you buy a new motherboard, that little square piece that comes in the box. They're perfect for this. You just put the laptop on top of that so you're not scratching it. And okay, what we're going to do now is start taking stuff out of the bottom. See, I know or I think I know from working on this type of laptop, that you really got to get in there. I mean, the power jacks are usually in a spot where it's almost impossible to get to them without taking everything apart. So I just start taking stuff out, like all the devices in the laptop I take out. So let's take the hard drive out. Hard drive is held in by these two screws. And what I do, and this is just not for beginners, I guess, guys, but when I take screws out, I note in my mind what color they are, how long they are, and where they go. This is a little baby screw. It's silver, and I know it came out of the laptop case, which is also silver. So maybe I could just match it up with that when I put them off to the side. Two screws. Pull them out. This pops right up. Pulls out. And then maybe I could take these two screws and put it with the hard drive and then put that off to the side. You know, this is probably RAM. Yep, there's a RAM. I could put the screw that came with the RAM, put that on top there. So I have that screw together with that. Pull the RAM out, put that off to the side. What do we got down here? Probably wireless card. Wireless card. Pop that wireless card out. Whoop. And then there's the two little antennas on top of the wireless card. Right here. They just pop right off. It's easy. So you just pop those wires off. One, two. They're just the antennas that go up to usually through the screen. I like to unplug them because when I'm working on a screen, if you try to take the screen off and these are still plugged in, the screen's not going to be able to come off right. Take out the wireless card. Just let those wires hang for now, it's fine. Then we got a big plate here. Let's just take that off. This is real easy. You're just unscrewing the plates, all the plates on the bottom of the machine to get all the accessories out first. All the devices. And that screw just jumped away from me. So did that one. Yep, no screws in there. Okay, now if you look under that last plate I took out, and this is a nice feature for a laptop. The last plate I took off, this is just normal unscrewing, guys, nothing fancy here yet. This has the whole processor and fan in there. I like to take that out too, just because I have access to it right now. Let's get it out of there, because we're going to have to get to the motherboard, and we don't want any junk stuck to the motherboard that's going to stop us from really getting the job done fast. So these four screws are the heat sink. When you're taking off a heat sink, it's good to do it like you take a tire off, like a little bit at a time on each corner, because this is putting pressure on the processor. And if you put pressure on the processor too hard in one corner, you could damage the processor. So do it like a crisscross pattern, a few turns each, until these screws are completely loose. And then you're going to see the CPU fan here has a connector. You can just pull the CPU fan out. Take the whole heatsink off. Now you got the processor sitting right there. You can hit the processor with one turn here. There's a little locking mechanism on these laptop processors. You turn it one way, it unlocks it, and then you can easily just take it right out. Don't try to pull it out unless you unlock it first. There's a little picture right here that tells you if it's locked or unlocked, so that you can go by that. Yeah, Acid Burn in the chat room says it's a great time to clean the process or the heatsink and CPU fan. Definitely. In fact, I'll show you what I do right now. You take a can of compressed air. You know, I take this outside usually, and I'm going to get the screws out of the way from the heatsink. And you just kind of blast it right in the heatsink, right in the coil there. All clean. So you just blow the air right in there, blow all the dust out. Keep that nice and clean. By the way, these are the 2 screwdrivers I use. They are little. They're tiny screwdrivers. They used to be this long. And this comes in that $10 screwdriver set that I sent to Newbrit in the beginning of Podnuts Daily for the contest. They're like $10. These are my favorite, and these 2 actually broke. They used to be this long, but they broke. But I like them so much better since they broke. They're real easy to handle. It's just one of the Phillips head and one of the straight heads. And they're like my favorite laptop screwdrivers. Use them for everything. Laptops. Okay, now that we got all the components out of the bottom, what I like to do now is get the screen out of the way. That's my next objective, because I'm going to basically have to unsandwich the top part of the computer here from the bottom part to get the motherboard out. And the screen is delicate. I don't want to damage it, so I want it out of the picture right now. The normal way to get screens off, here's a little trick. This is how you, not really a trick, but this is what you're going to learn the hard way if somebody doesn't tell you. See this plate right at the top of the computer here? That plate usually, if you pops off, and under there are the screws to unscrew the screen, usually. And that's also the way to get to the keyboard. Some of you might be wondering how to get a keyboard off. This plate is the key. If you're replacing a screen or keyboard, I mean the whole top part of the screen, if you're replacing this whole top part of the screen, if you're replacing just a screen, you don't have to take any of this stuff off that I just did, just for the screen. But if you're replacing the whole screen with the frame, or you want to get the screen off, this is the key, this plate here. Now, in Dell, a lot of Dells, you just put the screwdriver here, pop it up, and this whole plate comes off. But in Gateways, I believe it's screwed in at the bottom. So don't try to pry it off until you're sure all of the screws that are screwing it in out of the bottom are taken off. And I'm looking here. Wow. This laptop has no screws in it. Somebody had already taken this apart. It definitely wasn't me. This laptop has no screws in it. Wow. Okay. Well, the 3 that are holding the plate on are still here, actually, but there's no screws holding the bottom of this laptop together. It's pretty nasty. There's 3 little screws there, and I believe they are the screws that are holding the plate on. See, a lot of times when you get a laptop from a customer that has no screws in it, that means they tried to fix it. And that's dangerous. Now be careful when you pry this this piece off that you don't mess up the keyboard. It should kind of give like a little snap, and then you can kind of just put your screwdriver in and, you know, delicately start prying the thing off. There we go. Sometimes there's ribbon cables connected to it, like right here, so don't yank that baby. Just pull it off slow, unattach the ribbon cable. Pull that out. Now we have this piece freely off. Now that's the key to so many things. The keyboard now usually will just unscrew from here and here. This one doesn't have any screws in it and comes right off. Also attached by a ribbon cable, which you delicately have to pull, unattach and pull off. Okay, now what do we got? You just gotta go with what you see. Well, we have this ribbon cable that's not going to nowhere now. That's attached right to the motherboard. That's okay for now. Then we have the video cord. The video cord goes right to the screen. No, that's not the video cord. I don't know what that is, actually. But the video VGA connector's right here. So, anyway, and then you got your wireless down here. So you have 3 cables coming off the screen. Unattach them because we want to get the screen off. That's our main objective right now. Let's get the screen out of the picture. Unattach those 2 connectors. And now I'm just pulling the wireless cables from what I did earlier out. And they should come out through this hole here. No, it's kind of hard to see with this crappy camera. I don't know if I could focus it any better. Let me try. That's worse. Might be a little better. Don't worry, William. I'm recording this in HD on another separate camera, so. Ben's doing a show. Nevin's doing a show at 3 p.m. Nevin, I did not know that, man. I'm sorry. I'll try to finish up by then, all right? Okay, now at this point, guys, I'm just kind of unattaching ribbon cables. Because I'm going to be taking stuff apart and I don't want the ribbon cables to break. So just unattaching some ribbon cables here. That's loose now. Might as well take this one off now. This one's loose now. Okay, now let's get this screen off. We got all these connectors that all go into the screen. Let's get the screen off now. Just flip it. Screens are usually screwed in from the bottom. And since this one has no screws left in it, it should pop right off. Let's see. And it's not. So there must be some other things holding this in. Maybe under here. Aha. There's a connector there. There's a connector there. These go over the hinges, and it reveals 2 hidden screws. This is actually great that happened. If I would have tried to force the screen off, I would have broke something. That's the golden rule on laptops. If you have to force it, if you have to force something, you're not doing it right. Now, flip the screen up. Pull it up. There it goes. Now the screen's out of the picture. Okay? This is going to be an interesting job, seeing how this guy took all the screws out of the bottom of his computer already. But let's see what we got here. Alright, now we're left with this and this. We want to get this off of this. So we got to see if there's any screws holding that on. And there is. These here. See, I could already tell what happened. He didn't know. He tried to fix it himself. He didn't know that, like I talked about earlier, this bar is the key to getting everything apart. He didn't take this off. He unscrewed every screw from the bottom of the computer and gave up because he couldn't get the thing apart. So, That's what happened. So I'm taking the remaining screws out of here, putting them all in a pile that are kind of in the same area, so I know that where they go back. There's one screw here. This guy's a little smaller than the other screws, but longer. So I'll put that in a separate spot so I know where it goes without doing. And then I take a look and see if there's any other screws holding this thing together. And there is one here, which the guy didn't know how to take out. Okay, that's the same size as those. Anything else? Yeah, there's another one under the plate that I'm sure he missed too. That's one of the that's a real long one. As far as where to put the screws after you take them out, put them in a place where you're going to remember where they go. I'll tell you right now, the hardest part about doing a laptop repair, I think, is putting it back together. Finding out where all the screws go that you took out. So you just have to position them in a way that you're going to know where they go. Whatever system you want to do that, do it. Uncle Al in the chat room. I have not worked on this model before, no. So I've worked on the 15-inch model of this, which I thought this was going to be very similar, but right now it's not. So here's another screw. That's a normal size. I'm going to put it in that pile there. Okay, now what you want to do is find the spot where these two pieces are going to come apart. Hey, there it goes. And you just kind of go around the edges and you lift it off. And if it comes off clean, because we unattached all the ribbon cables, we got rid of all the screws, and we took the screen off. This should come up pretty easily. And it does. Okay, now what are we left here with? This is pretty interesting. This has a really big black cover on the top here. This is just a plastic cover covering the motherboard so no short circuits happen. This is a regular paintbrush. I got it at IKEA. I use paintbrushes to get rid of dust. As I'm working on the computer, get rid of dust. Mike, I see you in the chat. Are you doing a show today? Mike Smith? I just did this on a whim. I didn't know if I was breaking into anybody's shows here. I'm sorry if I am. Okay, good. Whew. Alright. Anyway, I'm going to pull out the CD drive now. Seeing how it's easily accessible. Comes right out. This is a pretty standard connection on a CD laptop drive. The thing that's not standard on laptop drives are these front panels. Under these front panels, they're almost all the same as far as size and connector. So you can easily replace a laptop drive, maybe with another laptop you have laying around. As long as the front panel, you could pull it off and put it onto another drive, you can put it in. You don't have to buy, what's this, a gateway? You don't have to buy a gateway laptop drive, is what I'm trying to say. They're pretty, all the parts are pretty standard, except for motherboards here. Alright, now here's a cool thing on this laptop. Check it out. Since we got the CD drive off, there's two wires here. And this is the power jack. This over here is the motherboard. And this is great because we can fix this power jack without doing anything else with the motherboard here. We don't have to remove this motherboard. We just unconnect this here. This is connected to power to the motherboard. Pull it out. And there's one little silly circuit board here with one screw in it. I unscrew that baby. Look at that. Power jack comes right out. Alright, now it's gonna probably might be hard to see on this camera, but check it out. Inside this power jack, you see the pin inside the power jack? See this toothpick? That pin is very loose in there, flopping all around.